Well, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the trip out here to Columbia University School of Professional Studies Career Design Lab. I know it's a lot easier to make your way out of your houses and apartments when it's not 5 degrees out, so we very much appreciate you all coming. We have a wonderful event here for you all today. We have alumni from 3 of our spectacular master's degree programs hosted at the university: our Enterprise Risk Management program, our Insurance Management program, and our Actuarial Science program. So we're going to be hearing from 3 alumni from those programs in just a minute. I also want to quickly shout out our wonderful faculty who are in the room. We have Teresa Chan, who is our program director for the Insurance Management program. Hi, Teresa.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Bob Kostakopoulos, the Deputy Program Director for the Enterprise Risk Management Program. And Rich Loria, who is our Associate Director for the Enterprise Risk Management Program as well. So our panel's going to last roughly 1 hour. Towards the end of it, we want this to be interactive, so please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Once the panel has concluded, we should have somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes to have a networking session. So please feel free to stick around, connect with our alumni, connect with our faculty, and of course, connect with each other. So without further ado, I want to allow our 3 alumni to go ahead and introduce themselves. So Francis, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Maybe I'll just briefly talk about my background and what I do in general. So currently I work as a strategic risk analyst in Morgan Stanley for their 2 U.S. national banks. You know, part of my job, we monitor and basically oversight the bank's strategic risk and look at key risk to our strategic plan, execution related risks. And previously, I graduated from Columbia's master's program. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Ashling, and I am a graduate of the MS in Insurance Management, so I worked with Teresa over there. And I am currently in a role called VP of Global Underwriting Operations, and I work for a reinsurance company. Very briefly, a reinsurance company, for people who don't know, is essentially a company that insures insurance companies. So it gets really niche. And in an operational role, I essentially oversee underwriting systems that help our underwriters do their job. And then also I manage a team that does data analytics. And I'm sure we'll get into my career path in a little bit because it certainly had a few twists.
So my name is David Abramov. I graduated from the Actuarial Science Master's Program. Currently, I'm an assistant actuary at New York State Department of Financial Services in their casualty department, where I regulate insurance companies.
Fantastic. Well, David, keep that mic with you because we're gonna start on the far end here. So you all work in related but different industries that all rely on a similar need for analytical skills. Can you talk a little bit about what skills have proven to be the most transferable across different roles that you've held or just different times within your career?
So for actuarial, definitely we have to do a lot. Actuarial, I guess the main difference is, I guess we focus more deeply on the calculations part, right? And the machine learning and the modeling part. It's much less managing, like in insurance management, you manage the entire insurance company, and then ERM, to be honest, I'm sorry, I don't really understand ERM, so I can't really comment that much on it. But definitely, I would have to say the most important, and I'm just speaking personally, I think the most important is just being curious. These are very changing industries, and having a natural curiosity where we keep adapting with the industry is probably one of the most important skills.
And is there any new trends that are popping up that are starting to make you think I need to train myself, address a skill set that you see coming down pike in actuarial science?
None that come to mind right now. I'm trying to stay away from the obvious elephant in the room by saying AI, but yeah. Aside from that, I don't see any aside from that.
All right, Aisling, same question for you about skills that you're looking to develop and that are, important for different stages of your career.
Sure. So I think the most important skill I have throughout my career and the education programs I've been to is my ability to read quickly. I think that's probably a good skill set for anybody embarking on a graduate program. So I am not very good at maths, which is why I went to law school originally. So I couldn't be an actuary. So I decided to go other routes in the insurance industry. And essentially, I think the ability to assimilate and take in information and then be able to summarize it succinctly and use it and apply it is really important. And it can be used in any career that you decide to take. And I think also the ability to communicate to people and to different types of people. I think being able to communicate to who is in the room is vitally important. And again, that's something that I think the Columbia program focused on. I think for us, a lot of the professors were like, who are you going to be talking to? You're going to be talking to executives. You're going to be talking to the C-suite. How do you present yourself? So I think that's a really important thing that, one, I bring to my career, but two, that Columbia also helped to develop. With regards to trends, I am going to say the elephant in the room. AI is massive. Like, we can't deny it. It is very present probably in all of our professional lives. I personally don't think it's the be all and end all that everybody thinks it will be. I think that, maybe whatever the most recent version is sentient, but I'll tell you the versions I use at work are definitely not. But it is useful. And I think there's a lot of use cases there that, again, you can learn about in these Columbia programs. We had a whole semester dedicated to data and technology, a lot of which was focused on AI, which again is really important because it is going to be massive in all of our industries.
Thank you, Bill. Don't mind me adjusting your skill questions later on. I do feel like I'm obligated to explain what ERM is and how this is useful to an organization. But in simple terms, ERM it can be seen as a process for a company to identify, assess, mitigate, and report or message risk to shareholders, right, at the enterprise, right, provide holistic view at an enterprise level. So if you think about traditional risk management silo, credit, liquidity, market, and then later on you have the operational risk, right? Now you have strategic risk, compliance in general. But eventually, the board doesn't care what kind of risk. They only care how big their stakes, their equities and company get impacted, right? Think about from board's perspective, right? So you think about holistically that how you can better synergize this risk management, this vertical, this silo, so that it provides the most value-added information to the board, so that it helps them to make timely decisions. And that's what ERM, and that's what ERM is aiming to achieve. In terms of skills, I must say, in my shoes, I would say just interpersonal, communication skills. How do you provide valuable, critical information in a, succinct, impactful way? So there's a lot of techniques, right? In my program, we talk about three-part leadership, right? We talk about persuasions, but you got to think about, okay, all of these analytics, all of this great information, but how do you put together a great storytelling for the board, for the CRO, for the CEO? So that's something I would say is important. Of course, AI is equally important, but AI is not going to replace a human relationship anytime soon, not that I could see. So, but I would say if you learn about AI, learn about some new technologies, that will definitely differentiate you from your peers, for sure, 100%.
So you all talked about different levels of communication, interpersonal connection. Aisling, I have my next questions for you. So the world of reinsurance, there's a lot of complicated relationships with insurance carriers, and you need to establish relationships across companies, across aisles. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach relationship building in your line of work and just how important that really is to what you do?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, thank you. So as I said, I'm in operations, I'm in underwriting operations, which means that I work with the moneymakers of the company, which means that what I do is help them do their jobs better so that we can earn more money. And that means I have to work with a lot of different functions. I work with underwriters, I work with IT, I work with actuaries, I work sometimes with risk managers and our risk team. So I have to be able to talk to a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different communication abilities. So I think that what I try to do is just make sure that I understand what they're talking about. I think that you can't be afraid to bring it down to its elements and make sure and break it down so that you understand what they're talking about. You can repeat it back to them to make sure that you're all on the same page and that you guys can form and strategize a plan together. I think that's really important. I think that one of the great things about doing the insurance management program at Columbia was that you're given a holistic view of all of the different functions and aspects of the insurance industry. So while you don't become an expert at anything, you can at least walk into a meeting with these different people and know what their job is and how to begin talking to them. And I think that's really important.
You bring up such a good point of the importance of that connection with individuals. Francis, I'm going to tie this back to something that you said about the importance of communicating with leaders. You all deal with highly analytical levels of work, right? You are breaking down complex ideas for leaders to take action on. So can you tell me a little bit about how you break down complex analysis into easy to understand and clear recommendations to those that might not be as technical as you?
Like I think that's a fair question, and it's always a question to all professional. Doesn't have to be risk professional, but almost everyone. I would say always start with the high level, right? So if you can break it in maybe 3 bullets, start with the high level because it's really bottom line upfront and short for bluff, right? Bottom line upfront, right? Tell people what's the most important things, right? What are things that require their attention first, right? In a reporting style, you should start with the top 10 keywords that the board should matter, that should require high attention or additional resources. So, and the second thing is really think about, okay, now I tell you what this is, then maybe you should include some recommendation, right? I would say in a high lab, in a high stake environment, whenever you give them a problem, you should give them a solution. So tell them, okay, here's the other solution, right? Require XYZ commitment, right? In $1 billion, whatever it is. And the third thing is really, call for action, right? Give your view, right? Maybe this is something you think is better. You can show them, okay, if you go this route, the impact is XYZ, right? The management team believe this is, the optimal choice. So I would say always think about that, right? Just don't throw in a problem and walk away. Think about how you can leverage that opportunity so that you can truly make impact, right, at the highest level.
And sort of that pyramid style communication, answer first.
Yes.
Okay, now let me build upon that and give you my exact recommendation, and here's everything that supports that argument.
Yes.
David, going back to you, a very similar question. You're working in the world of actuarial science. So what is it like to break down complex information to those that might not be, again, as technically proficient as you are?
Explaining actuarial findings is one of the most important parts of the job, especially in a regulatory environment where decisions affect both, insurers and the public. So, building trust is critical, and clear communication is a huge part of that. And one thing I've noticed is that stakeholders don't actually need to understand how the model works, right? They only really need to understand basically how the model's results, right? They just need to understand the model's results and how does it affect decision making. What does it mean for decision making? And they don't so I focus less on the technical mechanics of the model and more on okay, what do these results mean for decision making? And the way I personally do it is I translate the model's results into scenarios, right? So for example, this was what the baseline scenario looks like, this is what the stress case scenario looks like, this is what the optimistic case scenario looks like, and I think that does a good job of translating and making the uncertainty much more tangible, and you don't overwhelm people with all the technical detail. So ultimately, if stakeholders when stakeholders know or understand the conclusions and the uncertainty around them, they can make more informed and confident decisions, and that build that strengthens trust in the process overall.
So I want to take you all back into the classroom for a moment. Not sure how much everyone misses the reading and the late night classes, but I'm so interested to understand how your faculty, who are all working in the fields that they're teaching in, were able to apply real world scenarios to what you're doing. And I know everyone had a different journey through their master's degrees. Not everyone was working at the same time. Some of you were interning while you were in your programs. Aisling, let's start with you. I'd love to learn a little bit more about an example of a time that a faculty member was able to do that for you.
I mean, honestly, there were so many examples throughout my whole entire course. The insurance management program is very relevant and applicable to your everyday job. Right off the bat, before I even started the program, I actually was offered a position, the one I'm currently in, that's in operations. Now, my prior job before this had been in primary professional liability claims for over 15 years, which is a very different career path. My company obviously saw something in me and offered me this position in the reinsurance operations underwriting world. And I was like, I know nothing about reinsurance operations or underwriting. And they're like, it's fine, you'll figure it out. So I then went and spoke to one of the faculty members at the insurance management program, Marguerite, and Teresa put me in touch with her. And I was like, I don't know, should I do this? And Marguerite was like, take the job. I was like, okay. But no, she spoke to me. She was like, listen, we do a whole entire semester of operations. You're going to learn all the stuff that you need to get you started and to tell you what you don't know, so that you'll know what you don't know when you walk in and you'll be able to learn. So that's just like one example before we even started the program. And there was a multitude of them throughout.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, especially with a career transition
Yeah,
happening at
it
the
was
same
great.
time. David, how about yourself? Again, curious about any time a faculty member was able to provide some guidance about a real world situation that you were dealing with at work, internship, whatever it may be.
Oh, well, I guess I didn't really talk to the faculty much about work or internships, but I mean, in the classroom, we were given real world projects where we had to present, so that was very useful, especially practice with public speaking and also problem solving in general. Yeah, and so yeah, I never really spoke to faculty much about work.
Fair enough. Everyone has a different journey
Right.
through their grad school. Francis, I know that the ERM program prides itself on a real world applicability. So yeah, I'm sure you have a treasure trove to talk about here.
Yeah, I would just share one instance. So I took this class. It's a required course called External Stakeholder Requirement. And one of the case study that was assigned to the class was really just analyzing Silicon Valley Bank failure or collapse. And it was at the time, it was actually something very recent. So we actually, get to analyze the company's information, right? Anything that's public. And we looked at, so what really causes the failure, right? We start from the failure point, and then we look back, and then we say, did they do this, or did they not do this, right? So basically, eventually, from that class, we look at something that's bigger from what you see in the news, right? It's the balance sheet management, yes, but what did you know about they don't have a CRO in place for 6 months, right? Did you know about that, right? So you got to go through all of this and think of risk management, right? Looking at like a bow tie, right? You can have those risk factors, right? Have those risk drivers, right? At some point, and trickle down, and then eventually it causes the bank to go under. So no one or no single thing is solely responsible for things like SVB. It's always a chain of negative events. Now speaking in hindsight. So I would say from that class, you really get to see, understanding risk management, risk taxonomy, risk event, and how do we actually manage risk at each single level.
Fantastic. So part of your learning obviously comes from the faculty members, academic, curriculum requirements that you're going through. Such a large part of whether it is going through your career or through graduate school is connecting with your peers, whether it be at a networking event like this, or if you're sitting in the classroom turning to your neighbor, or if you're in a virtual class, reaching out to the person on the little box that's next to you and talking to them. So I'm really curious how you leverage your network in your work, and how has it helped you navigate your career, whether again in person like this or while you were sitting in your grad school classes. And Francis, you got the mic, so you can keep going.
Yeah, this is cliche, but your network is your net worth. I mean, all of you heard of this.
They should make a t-shirt.
Yes, if I could go back in time, I'll definitely talk to Bob and Rich L'Oreal more, right? I mean, why not, right? I can speak for my program. Within ERM, we have fabulous, esteemed faculties, right? We have even your peers, right, come from different backgrounds that I think you can really learn from. I would say really, when you're in the program, enjoy speaking to each other, right? Learn from the experience, build genuine relationship by, asking questions that are not too intentional, deliberate, by asking questions like, what do you do outside of work, right? Get to know each other, right? Organically. And really, the more relationship that you build, I think it will be definitely more helpful down the road when you're looking for opportunity, right? Or when you're up against something, right? It could be, exam, right? Why don't you want to pair with a buddy to study for the exam, right? I mean, you can study by yourself, that's nothing wrong, but always think about how you can leverage your human resources around you, right? How do you build that human capital shield, right? And that could also sometimes be seen as a core competency when you look for a job, right? When you look for bigger tasks, because truth to be told, the one seat at the top, right, really good at managing people, right? Not really, I'm not saying they don't do the work, but they're better at managing people than most in the world, right? I think that's why they qualify to be in that seat. So start thinking about how you can expand your network, right? And that shouldn't be starting once you get your mission, but start today, right? Talk to people and start building genuine relationship.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think the days of cold applying to jobs on LinkedIn is quite dead at this point. And, anyone that I've ever spoken to, it's somebody that they knew, as a connection that they made through a program, through a colleague, through a friend, at the bar, who knows what it is. But that human component, coming back to AI, is never going to replace what we have. Ashley, I'm curious about you and how you leverage your network, again, whether it was through your grad program or elsewhere.
I definitely leveraged my network before I got to my grad program, for sure. That's how I've gotten several of the positions that I've had over the years, because I would completely agree with Francis that is vitally important, and it's something that you should work on throughout your career. With regards to the program, I was actually kind of surprised because the last time I graduated from an educational program was a long time ago, and it was in person. So I was quite, not skeptical, but a little bit nervous about how I would be able to create a network and get to know my peers in an online, virtual, asynchronous program. And it is shocking how well you get to know each other. Perhaps a little too well at times, but just because you're constantly communicating about discussion posts, about group projects, individual projects, like just various things throughout the whole entire program, means that you do get to know everybody. And I mean, even now, like, we graduated last year, but technically the class is finished in December 2024. We're still in touch on a WhatsApp group. When people are going for jobs, the first thing they do is they text the WhatsApp group and be like, hey, I'm applying to this position, or I've applied to this position. Does anybody know anybody? And we all reach out and we help each other. And I mean, that's just absolutely fantastic. It really is. It's really great knowing that there's that resource out there, for sure.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely the connections you make in university definitely carry over to the industry you work in. But the good news is that most of the people here are already doing the right thing. Like, you showed up to this event. So, as long as you, show up consistently to events like this, and you're building visibility, you're building relationships, you're building opportunities. So no, keep showing up, keep meeting people, and I'm not going to say you're going to connect to every person you meet is going to be a connection, but as long as you have one or two really, really strong connections, that's more than enough.
So let's shift gears for a second here. I was chatting with folks that were coming into the room earlier, and we have folks in a lot of different backgrounds in the room, who some of which are at early stages of their career, others who are a little bit further along. I'm really curious to hear more about what the three of you enjoy most about the industries that you work in. So David, I'm going to start with you. What do you love about being an actuary? What does that get you going?
I wish there was a dramatic story, but no, I just really, really love math and problem solving, and yeah, I was looking for a job that combined both of them, and yeah, stuck with actuarial science.
Is there something about being an actuary that from the outside somebody wouldn't know that you and your insider knowledge would share with the class here, so to speak?
Well, I guess well, what I do, right, I can basically talk about my role a little bit. So what I do is I'm in insurance regulation, right? So one concrete example of that is when an insurer wants to raise premium, they typically can't do so unilaterally, right? They have to submit an actuarial rate filing to regulators with supporting analysis explaining why an increase is needed. So our role as regulators is to review the filing, critically, and by evaluating assumptions, methodologies, and of course whether or not the proposed rate is actuarially justified. Our goal is to strike a balance, right? We want to make sure that insurers are financially solvent, and the public, consumers, aren't paying unfair or excessive pricing. So pretty much, yeah, that's what I do. I basically do review filings to see if they're actuarially justified. Is there anything else you wanted to know? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right. Ashley, I'm curious about you. What got you into the world of reinsurance, and what is it about working in this industry that you enjoy the most?
Okay, well, actuaries, I will say one thing that I found out last year, now that I work with all of them, you guys have to do so many exams.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it, 11 exams?
10.
10. It's like insane. Insurance, I think insurance and then reinsurance, honestly, it makes the world go round. I think that's what I really love about it, is that it's global. It genuinely underpins the world economy. And people don't even really think about it that way. And I think that's kind of fascinating. People know they have auto insurance or renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, but you don't see the bigger scale of it and what it does for major corporations and multinationals. And then on the reinsurance side, you get to see the global picture, because for example, my company is a global reinsurer. So we reinsure insurance companies all over the world. So when a catastrophe, whether it's man-made or natural, happens somewhere in the world, it affects us and the major insurance companies. And we have to figure out how much our exposure is and how much we're going to have to pay out, which trickles down to the average homeowner somewhere. Like the LA fires this time last year. That was a major event. And not just in the US, but globally, because a lot of insurance companies, even elsewhere in the world, had risk there. So I think that just people don't realize how interconnected it is. And I think it's really fascinating to be able to work in an industry where you can see that.
And if there was anybody in the room that was interested in getting into your line of work, what's something that they should kind of tip them off that this might be the right line of work for them?
The great thing about the insurance industry when I started in it, which is a long time ago now, is that everybody has, from my generation, maybe a little bit younger and definitely older, is I don't know, I just kind of happened into the insurance industry and I love it. Now you have programs, you have bachelor degrees, you have graduate degrees. If it's something that interests you, you can do it and you can find access to education to help you get a starting hand in it. There's so much opportunity in the insurance industry. You don't even have to know anything. We will hire you. There are 400,000 people retiring from the insurance and reinsurance industry over the next 3 to 5 years. That is massive. Those people need to be replaced. So you don't need to know anything. Just come find me. We'll hire you. We'll train you.
You convinced me. Francis, same question on your end.
Do you mind repeating the questions again?
So for someone who's interested in getting into the work of, whether it be risk management, strategic risk management, even working in this in financial services, what is it about it that first you love? And then for the folks in the room that might not be working in it right now, what's something that you would share with them? A look behind the curtain of what it's like to live in a day in the life in Francis's world.
Okay, so it's first thing I love, right? Things I love, and then maybe the insights. I would say it's always starting with the questions, right? I was looking at something about 2008 and looking at companies, right, that still remain today, and the companies that went under and never came back. You guys know the names, right? You have Lehman Brothers, literally just in the same block, right, next to us. It turned out that a lot of the time it's not that the companies can make another dime, right? Companies are always taking risks, but it's really I'm just going to give you my answer and what I found. It's really that company couldn't manage risk well enough holistically, right? The board didn't know about these things, right? Maybe the management did. So I guess that's what triggered me to understand how come some companies survive. Maybe they do have a better risk management. Maybe they are able to control and mitigate their risk, their key risks. That's why they survived not just 2008, but they're going to survive for another decade. That's why, right? Some companies stay, some companies just go. So I think enterprise risk management is my solution. It's what I found and what I firmly believe in. And I do think that will be the key differentiator to companies, right? We're not talking about meeting the KPI next year. We're talking about surviving generations after generation. And I think ERM really enable companies to do it. Now, insights, second part. I mean, my job is definitely not the most exciting thing in the world. I mean, I feel like I have a lot more exciting things that I do outside of work, and I think people will believe in that. But I do feel rewarded in my position. I do feel, meaningful knowing that I achieved something that is always a myth. So I can give you an example. In risk management, people often think you can quantify non-financial risk, right? Like there's no black and show model for strategic risk. There's no economic model for operational risk, right? And making something up. But the truth to be told is you always need to make a decision, right? You always need to make, and the more information you have, the more risk intelligence you have, the better. And I'm really stepping in and solve that problem by saying, okay, we can find out who knows this information in the company. We can interview the experts, right? We can get the information, right? And there's no perfect model, but at least you're doing something that you're giving valuable information to the board, so that when they make the decision, at least they know something, right? Versus they don't. So I do find that being very meaningful and being satisfying all the time. I think that's it. Mostly.
Fascinating. Okay. So I'm curious about the interplay between your three industries, right? So again, for the folks in the room, there might be people that touch upon a couple of different aspects of each of your jobs. And I'm sure the three of you have probably, met an actuary, worked with an actuary, met someone in insurance, met someone in risk. Could you talk about any of the experiences that you have working in that kind of interplay environment? Open to whoever wants to answer that one.
I mean, so as I've mentioned, I definitely work with a lot of actuaries now in my current job, because actuaries are vital to reinsurance companies operating soundly. We rely a lot on their analysis and their models, so thank you very much. In my primary life, I didn't work with actuaries as much, mostly because I was in a claims role, but that's where I worked with a lot of risk managers. And Francis does a particular type of risk management, but in my role as a primary insurance claims handler, I worked with a lot of risk managers at corporations, hospitals, and other entities like that that essentially looked at the risks that their company was facing and placed insurance for them, so that they would then interact with me in my claims role when I handled their claims. And then now at a reinsurance company, I interact with a different type of risk manager, which is our actual risk department, which is closer to probably what you do, which evaluates like our more holistic risks as a reinsurance company and our exposures and our aggregates and all that type of stuff. So I think, just not in a bad way, like the breadth of interaction that I have with people in these different roles in the insurance industry shows you the breadth of opportunity that's there.
I'm starting to think insurance really does make the world go round here. David, so I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Talking about specific industry that you work in, you're our one public sector
Yeah.
panelist here. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to work in the public sector. What do you enjoy about it? And why was this a pathway that you chose?
So I think the cool part about working in the public sector is definitely you're exposed to so many different lines of business, right? So I'm a property casualty actuary, so where we mostly stick with, classic examples, homeowners, auto insurance, commercial auto. Yeah, basically, I guess the big difference is property and casualty, we insure objects, right? Property. While I guess the other side is life and health, where my definition of the difference is one insures the human body and the other insures inanimate objects, or property. Well, I think pet insurance falls under property and casualty, so that might be controversial to say, but no, but essentially. Yeah, you're just exposed to so many different industries, and if you're someone who's very naturally curious like me, you're in a wonderland basically, because you can just learn about any and all, right? You're just exposed to every single industry, and yeah, that part I really find
Yeah, it really lets you kind of wear all hats and learn a little bit about a lot about everything, jack of all trades. Francis, how about for yourself? So, working particularly in finance, was that always the pathway that you were interested in, and what do you enjoy about working in that environment?
Absolutely. I was very determined to work at a bank before I joined the program, and of course, even after I joined the program. I'm always interested in banking and financial services industry in general. Now, banking in particular, because I'm just naturally drawn to how banks make money, right? Looking at maturity transformation and stuff like that. So I was always determined, right, to be in that space. Nowhere else, not looking anywhere else. I would say I will also add to that, banking. I just had this conversation offline before this. I said banking is most likely the most regulated industry in the world, right? It may be one of the most. Right? Let's be humble a little bit, and because of that, right? There's always constant changing pressures, right, from the outside or from the regulator, right? You always need to meet the minimum requirement, but meeting the minimum requirement is like to say in the class you get a D, literally, right? That's minimum requirement. The company's owner, the stakeholder, the shareholders always have high expectation for you, right? They want your company to meet this KPI, but also to survive, but also to be better, to be the upper hand when there is competition, or to come out safely when there is a crisis. So I think, ERM really these days try to solve this problem and try to make company come out strong and come out resilient, right? And I think, banking it's just fascinating in general. So if you guys have questions, talk to me. I'm more than happy to answer offline.
Fantastic. In just a few minutes, we'll also be opening up to questions, so definitely start thinking about any questions that you have for our panelists. Aisling and Francis, a little birdie told me that you are also both course associates in your respective programs that you graduated for. Is teaching something that either you're interested in, and what gave you the interest and drive to give back to the program and to go into that line?
Go ahead.
I'll let you go.
Oh, Yes, I am a course associate for the Global Legal and Regulatory Ecosystem class in the insurance management program. I'm supporting the professor this semester on teaching that course. Part of it is because even though I'm no longer in a legal role, my background is originally as an attorney, and I practiced for about 6 years before I went into primary claims, and now I'm in reinsurance. So I have a pretty broad background and understanding of how the legal and regulatory world works. I was delighted to be asked. I've never been an educator before, and I think it was just a new challenge, which is always exciting, and then also the ability to learn a new skill set, which is always welcome. And I get to continue with like relationships with the wonderful faculty at Columbia. And then one of the other things that they also offer is a pedagogical lab. So I know nothing about teaching, but I'm able to take a lab to help me learn about teaching while I'm teaching. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really gets to tap into the whole Colombian ecosystem here. Francis, help yourself, and definitely what course are you associating for?
Yeah, so this semester I'm associate for one of our the best core courses, value-based enterprise risk management. I think it's probably my second time being associate for this class, and for me, I think the main purpose is always to just give back to my community. I mean, I do feel, I do take pride in doing that, and of course, money is the secondary reward that I get, but the primary purpose is really to give back to the community and to share industry insights, right? To give the best possible feedback, right? Because I was also once a student in that class. I do like to interact with generations of my age and even younger generation. I do also enjoy providing mentorship, although me myself being a young generation, I do enjoy that. I do think that through those experiences and moments, I get to help expand, my ERM family, our program, and help promote what we think and what we agree the best practices are.
A wise man once told me it's not about the net worth, it's about the network. So. All right, so one last round of questions for everyone, and we could keep this one brief. We'll start with David. For those who are considering going into actuary, what is one last piece of advice, thing to keep in mind for those that might be interested?
Well, yeah, I can only talk about, I guess, myself. Yeah, I'm very simple. Yeah, I was just a huge math nerd. I know I wanted to do something, very mathematical and problem solving. So I went searching and found actuarial science and stuck with it and never looked back. So I guess the only advice I could give is if you really like math and you could see yourself doing it forever, you could do it like, all day, every day, and never get tired of it, then yeah, I think you're gonna love actuarial science.
Well, my ninth grade algebra teacher would have crossed me off that list very quickly in that case. So glad to cross one thing off there. Aisling, how about yourself?
I think with insurance, there's so many career opportunities within the industry that honestly it's limitless. And that as advice, I think that if you're curious, you should reach out and talk to myself or Teresa or other people that are involved even in insurance in your companies and just learn more about what they do. And wherever you start in insurance isn't necessarily where you end. So keep that in mind.
All right, Francis, take us home.
Yeah, I would say ERM program can get you into many places, just like the other great programs we have in SPS. From a testimony perspective, I would say I've seen folks from my program that got into investment banking that goes to the silo risk management, like the credit, market risk. I've seen folks that are doing risk management in fintech companies. So the door is really wide open, right? It's really about how you want to articulate yourself, right? How do you see which industry or which position George, interests you the most. So I would say that, and of course, there are a lot of roadblocks, right? A lot of challenges, and my program also teaches like communication skills, right? Three-part leadership. How do you persuade senior management, right? How do you pitch certain ideas? So I do think the program it's a little bit of math, right? Maybe a little bit of insurance, right? A little bit of strategy, right? And it could also be a little bit of communications, right? And if you feel like you are not 100% sure where you want to head to, just like me 4 years ago, 3 years ago, that's fine. You know, you can always think about your app. You can always talk to Rich and Bob, and they're more than happy to answer your questions.
Well, fantastic. Francis, Aisling, David, thank you so much for taking part of the panel. I do want to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists before we open up networking? Here.
Hi, my name is Precious. I'm currently majoring in actuarial science in my undergrad. And my question is, how do you think the career paths differ from someone who goes straight into the insurance industry versus someone who gets a specialized MS in insurance actuarial science or risk management?
Great question. Anybody want to chime in on, I guess, going straight into grad school versus getting some experience first? Please.
I have two, I guess, graduate degrees. Like, I took 2 years out after undergrad and I went to law school, and that was invaluable because I don't think I was mature enough to go straight into law school, which is a tough thing to do. And then again, many years later, I went and I did a master's in insurance management. And I think that taking a little bit of time and getting a little bit of experience will never hurt. And that's what I would suggest. I think like getting real world experience, like it's worth it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't start in insurance. I kind of, my first, I guess, insurance exposure was as an actuary. But no, I 100% agree. Any experience you have will help you tremendously. Yeah, it never hurts.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in as someone who waited 6 or 7 years before going back to his grad degree. It's really interesting on both ends. I think some students that came right out of their undergrad into a grad degree provided so much value in the classroom. They were kind of already in school mode, which was a good thing for everybody. But there's also certainly benefits to having work experience and being able to touch upon it. The real answer is there's no one right answer to that question. Each pathway has its own benefits, and just different parts of life can give you a different head start in one way or the other.
You might buy another one,
Please? Yeah, absolutely.
What's your name?
My name's Precious.
Sorry?
Precious?
Precious. Okay, Francis here. I would say this is not a binary choice. Just so you know, and I am telling you, me myself, when I was in my program, I was doing multiple internships. Yes, they're not full-time experience, but I also seen one of my greatest friends he's currently in the program, and he's working with me as a colleague, and he's taking this program right now, right? So he's studying part-time and they're working full-time. So there are always arrangements to be made, right? This is not either this or that. You can do both, right? It's really how you navigate that, right? Of course, not everyone's lucky to say, I can work full-time and then study part-time or do both full-time. You may have your own commitments, so that's where you see where you want to do the trade-off. But I would say think wider. Maybe you're the lucky one, Precious, right? Maybe you're the one who walked out this room getting an internship in 3 days. Who knows, right? And you still get industry experience. At the same time, you learn whatever best practices that interest you from SPFs.
Anybody else have any questions? Yeah. Here.
Hi, my name is Rio Ahmad. I truly attend Rutgers University. My apologies. As the economics and IT major within mining with a minor in accounting. I'm also really interested in math, like actuarial science. I just wanted to know what you guys did within your undergrad years to make you where you are now. I know that you mentioned that you wanted to go into law, but yet you chose a completely different career path. And yet, I want to know how that has impacted you to where you are versus your strengths versus your weaknesses.
My undergrad was in statistics, right? And then I did the Columbia Masters in Actuarial Science. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a statistician. So again, that's one of the reasons why I chose Actuarial Science. It's very, very practical, right? And it's very specific, which I guess I really, really liked. Yeah, I would say economics, there's not much overlap with actuarial science with regards to economics. It's more finance and data analysis, right? And statistics and probability theory, right? Economics is more on the macro, like economic theory, right? But yeah, but I mean, IT, I would say would be more, IT and economics would be more insurance management or I guess, well, ERM, more statistics. Is there like, I guess, would you, like how, like, would you be willing to, I guess, change your trajectory into actuarial science?
I like to put open mind when it comes to my future careers. Um, Risk management wasn't really something that I was looking into. However, when I did more research on it, because whatever I want to go into, I do a lot of research on it, and I found it quite interesting how that it was something aligned with my goals. However, I know that within the next, let's just say the next few months, for example, I know that my goals will completely change. I came into high school thinking I wanted to be a part of the medical field, but yet I graduated high school going into the business field. And that has really taught me that nothing is for sure, I guess, ended, if that makes sense. That there are always many opportunities that will change the way you think and that will change the way on how your perception is. So going into risk management or wealth management or in kind of sense with banking, um, or actuary science, is something that I wouldn't mind pursuing in the future.
Well, I think I wasn't asked this, but I think it's important to, everyone, I don't know how many people here know what an actuary does. Not all at once. uh, so I think it's a good idea to answer that question. Generally speaking, not getting into all the mathematics of it. Basically, we calculate how much risk is worth in dollars, right? I'm sure all of you have heard the term high risk, high reward, right? It doesn't actually mean if I take a huge risk, I'll be rewarded for it, right? If you jump out of a plane, God isn't going to catch you in his hand and put you gently down. It means, okay, wow, this is very, very risky. I am only going to enter into this risk unless I'm compensated for it. And that's essentially what actuaries are trying to do. When you buy insurance, the insurance company is taking on some of your risk, right? And for a fee, right? They're saying this is how much the risk costs, so pay us a fee and we'll take on this risk. And the actuary's job is to make sure that this premium, right, insurance premium, is enough to pay out claims should they come in, make the insurance company profit, and pay out expenses. And that's again, it's easier said than done. Yeah, so if that's something that appeals to you, I think it's really, really cool. I mean, I tell my nieces and nephews when they ask me, "Oh, David, what do you do?" "Oh, it's really cool. I predict the future with math." So so but no, I think it's really, really cool. But if that sounds something that you would like to do, right? There's other risks because there's so many other risk management careers. Quantitative analysis, right, is also a big one, right? Yeah, what quants do at hedge funds is really cool too. But yeah, no, it's all again, yeah, as long as you love math, yeah, just I'm not saying you need to go into actuarial science, but yeah, it's I think you'll enjoy it. Definitely.
And I'll say, just to add on to it, while you're at the undergrad level, take advantage of things the same way you would at graduate school as well. Connect with your faculty, right? They have these life experiences and can share a little bit more about what it's like to work in a specific field. Doing the same thing with folks on LinkedIn, alumni in your program. People love to talk about themselves and just tell you all about what they do on a day-to-day basis. So if you approach those conversations from a please tell me a little bit more about you because I'm interested in this pathway, it'll also help you narrow down the many fields that you have in front of you right now. And you got so much time to still figure it out. So you're doing the right things here, being here today. Teresa, yeah.
I just want to make a comment, with respect to learning about different areas, that there are many different associations that are related to all of these fields. And many of these associations, because we are trying to attract industry, insurance industry professionals, are making the memberships free for students. So you should look into all the different associations. There's CAS, right? The Casualty Actuarial Society. I sit on some boards of different associations, and you can join them for free, participate in their events like these, and just talk to people. And that's one actually really good way to learn about the industry, because people love to talk about what they do, right? And you'll get a lot of feedback from a variety of people in terms of, what type of actuarial work they do, who they do it for. And I think that that's a really good way of doing research as well, not just looking it up online. But the benefit is that they're making this available to students because we want to attract undergraduate students. We want to attract people into our industry. So you should take advantage of that. All of you.
Oh, and it's not just CAS. There's so many nonprofit actuarial organizations. There's SANA, I think that's South Asian, sorry, I forgot what the N stands for, of actuaries. There's SAGA, which is Sexuality and Gender Alliance of Actuaries. There's, what else? Oh, I think there's NAWA. That's, I forgot what that stood for. But there's one. Yeah, these are all acronyms that they're escaping me, but Abacus is basically the one that is for, you've probably heard of Abacus or something, I don't know if you have, or I don't know, there's, I think there's a women's organization. These are all nonprofits that help assist, basically, prospective actuaries, get their foot in the door. And because I'm going to be honest, that's probably the hardest part of is getting your foot in the door, getting that initial entry-level position.
Well, speaking of predicting the future, I predict that we have time for one more question before we bring out into networking. Yes.
Hi everyone, thank you. My name is Costanza, and I have questions specifically for Francis, but all of you are welcome to answer because I'm interested in the year-end program because I always, more I go, more I study because I'm also a senior, so I'm still an undergrad. But yeah, more the time passes, the more I see that this field is growing constantly, and as I start my first experiences, my first internships, I see how businesses are exposed to either the most simple logistic issues, but also liabilities, So my question for you is currently or nowadays, what field do you see, what field of errors, do you see is affecting most, a business, in this case, a bank, just because I'm curious and so that we can, again, really predict the future and be more, informed on what's going on. Thank you.
What's your name again?
Costanza.
Costanza. Thank you so much for your question. So just to make sure I capture it, so you're asking the thing that could impact the banking industry the most, right?
Yeah.
In the future. It's a very great question, and I believe you probably have heard of these kind of answers. But my personal view, don't represent my company, my team. Just a disclaimer. I would say is anything related to AI as a source. So it could be fraud, a deep fake, right? Could be something that could disrupt businesses that, for example, your client's money, right? Or something that could create financial crimes, right? I think this is all coming back from AI, right, as as a side effect, right? Because there are always misuse or illegal, illicit use of technologies, and we have seen that right throughout the industry. And I do see that there will be more fraud, more deepfake technologies that could come impact the bank and disrupt their businesses. And this may be one area that I believe a lot of companies are paying attention to. And that includes also cybersecurity, right? Ransomware. These are already BAU, right? Business as usual, but just adding like those deepfake and fraud, more high quality fraud, right? I think those are the things that companies should look out for.
So do you think if that, you're saying that is more than the disruptions of AI, do you believe that if companies will know how to use AI better, that would like be an advantage for them rather than like AI disrupting the industries?
Yeah, the short answer to your question is yes. Company should definitely be aware and pay more attention.
Okay.
Now, I would say, and don't mean to advise too much, but really in short languages, if you look at any potential threat, right, uncertainty, right, you look at the risk, right. From a company perspective, it's always very important you understand where the sources are coming from. That's how you can hedge or mitigate or control the risks properly, right? I'll give you a simplest example. If you're late to class, maybe the real mitigation control you have is time management, not the MTA train, right? So you understand what I'm saying. So if the company truly see, right, have a good understanding of where the risks are coming from, it's the source, and then if you start from there, you think about, okay, operationally, how can you deal with it? Economically, how can you deal with it? Strategically, how can you deal with it? And that will be my response to your questions.
Thank you so much.
All right. I would love for everyone to give a quick round of applause for Francis, David, and so much for sharing your experiences with everybody.